Hi, I just wanted to go through a few mistakes that some of my first time buyers have done when getting mortgage ready. Right, my name is Manda Walker and I'm the mortgage coach and I'm here to help you. Now, the first one I wanted to talk about is address inconsistency. So I understand while you're at uni and you're renting and that kind of stuff, you prefer your driving license and possibly your bank statements all to be addressed at the family home, at your parents' home. Now, this isn't a problem if you stay consistent and everything is addressed there. What I find a lot of first time buyers do is they leave like university, for instance, and they get their first job, and when it asks them the address on their contract, they put where they're renting. And then when we go to do the mortgage, what ends up happening is their pay slips and their contracts are going to one address, and then all their ID for proof of address all is going to another thing. So just so you're aware, when you go to get a mortgage, you do need to provide proof of address, which is normally, your driving license. You also need to provide ID, which is normally your passports, and make sure that is valid, because even though it's expired, you still need a valid passport. And then the third thing is when they're asking for proof of income, they will look at bank statements for income and expenditure, and they'll also look at pay slips. Now, if your bank statements are at your parents' address and your pay slips are at your new address or where you're renting, it really doesn't work out. And the inconsistency, one, it doesn't help your credit, and that's something else I'm going to go on to. But two, the banks that really don't like it, so they literally will wait till you get all of your addresses in the right order, which can delay things. So it's a great thing to do during mortgage preparation, part of the get mortgage ready, as I like to call it. The second thing I wanted to talk about is make sure you're registered on the electoral roll. Two thick points about that. One, being registered really does help with your credit when we're running the credit report. The fact that all the credit agencies know where you live and that you're registered to vote does give you credibility, and it helps improve your credit. So that's important on that point. The other thing is, again, on the electoral roll, people tend, like with the jobs they're going for, put the actual address they are living at, because obviously when they're going to vote, they want somewhere local to them, but then they've forgotten that their bank statements, again, and driving license might be in their parents' address, or wherever the family home is. So make sure, again, it's consistent, because on your credit report, if it has like one address for one part and one address for the other part, that won't work out very well. So when you're looking at your credit report, every single credit commitment will list the address it's linked to. So if you've got a current account, it may be going to one address. If you've got a credit card, and then it may be going to another address. So address consistency. One, banks don't like the inconsistency, and two, it affects your credit score. Right, the next thing I'd like to talk about is your credit footprint in general. Now, with a credit footprint, you need to show that you've actually used credit. I know this sounds really, really weird, but I'm not saying to live in your overdraft. In fact, have an overdraft, fine, but don't live in it. That's a point I will come back to in a sec. But when I'm talking about your credit footprint, you need a credit card. You need to have had a credit card or a personal loan of some kind. I'd recommend a credit card. I'd recommend a balance of, say, £500. And literally, if you drive, then use it for petrol, pay it off, every week. At the end of every month, or just before it's due, get a direct debit set up that basically clears the balance every single month. So that shows that you can use credit, but you're managing it because you're paying it off every month. You could also, if you don't drive, you could use it for, like, instead of your Oyster. So when you're traveling around, you could use your credit card to pay for all your travel. And then again, at the end of the month, have the direct debit. Don't set it up for the 10% minimum like they all ask you to. Set it up to be paid in full. Don't ever spend more than, say, 30% of the limit of the credit card. Or if you do, then make sure it's not a regular occurrence. Don't max out your credit card. Make sure it's within the sort of 30%, 50% at the most. But using up to 30% of it and then paying it off every month really does build up a great credit footprint. But it can take, a good 6 months to build up a footprint. So don't get a credit card and then put in an offer for a flat a week later, because that's really not going to help. For a start, it takes at least 6 weeks for it to appear on the credit report. It can take up to 6 weeks to appear on the credit report. And then obviously you've got to show a pattern of using it. So I'd say at least 6 months before you're planning. So that's great, because while you're building up your credit, you can also be saving up for your deposit. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is presentation. So they will look at your bank statements, as I said. So making expenses that they don't like, for example, gambling and things like that, that's not a good thing to have on your bank statements. I'm not saying that you do, but yeah, that's one thing to do. Large cash withdrawals, if you take out cash a lot of cash deposits, they will start asking about that if it's on a regular basis. If you pay friends or family for anything and you've got loads of direct debits set up, any direct debit, they can take that as a committed expense. So be aware of that. Again, as I mentioned before, if you live in your overdraft, that also doesn't look good. So just think about it when you're going to, you found the property that you're looking for, or you start searching for a property. Make sure you clean up your bank statements at that point, because they will ask for 3 months worth. So if they see that you're in and out of your overdraft, if they see that there are large cash withdrawals, if they see that there are loads of direct debits, they don't just look at credit card loans, they will look at all of a direct debit is, as far as they're concerned, a committed expense. So initially, when you go to apply for the mortgage, you'll obviously put down that you're committed, so that'll be your credit cards and your loans. But then when they review your documents later on in the buying process, they will look at direct debits, standing orders. So just make sure all of those are cleaned up, and also what the descriptions are. If they're very vague descriptions, they don't particularly like that. The other thing, I've been in situations are when people are quoting, mother, daughter, that kind of thing. If you haven't actually got kids and then you've put mother, daughter, and whatever, it can confuse things. Or if you don't get child benefit and all of that, it can be very confusing whether you've got dependents or whether you haven't. So it's best just to keep your bank statements as clean as possible. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is your email. Now, they will want to contact you, so it's best, and this is important when you're going for a job as well, or you're doing anything to do with anybody formally, if you're contacting the council, if you're applying for a job, as I said, or when you're applying for a mortgage. Make sure that your email is a professional email address, even if you have to create one. So what I mean is, for instance, my name's Manda Walker, so I'd have like Manda Walker at whatever, the email would be, as opposed to, Hot Babe 22 or something. I don't know, but you get the idea. They want one. It just looks more credible to have an email address with your name in it, and two, for money laundering and those other concerns that banks do have. Then they will also they will also want you to have an email address with your name in it. So I hope that has helped. So those are just a few of the mortgage mistakes or first time buyer mistakes I've seen as a mortgage advisor, and I won't say which one I did myself, but yeah, so if you've got any other questions, that'd be great. I hope you found this useful. Please subscribe and press that like button, and yeah, I'll just do more videos. So put in the comments any videos that you'd like me to talk about, or if you'd like me to expand on this, and I'd be more than happy to do so. Thanks.